Welcome to Leading from the Front with your host, Tony Hunter, Chairman and CEO for McClatchy Company and founder of TWH Enterprises. Leading from the Front is a series of one-on-one conversations with diverse, talented business leaders. During these inspiring talks, Tony digs in to uncover their secrets to success in today's ever-changing marketplace and highlights how his guests lead from the front in various industries, sectors, and communities. So please, join us on learning how to lead from the front.
I am so excited today to have my guest with me today. She is the president and CEO of Women Unlimited. Women Unlimited is an organization that works with Fortune 1000 companies. They take individual leaders, female leaders from those organizations, and put them through a rigorous development exercises to prepare them for the next level of leadership within their company. My guest today is Rosina Racioppi. She is the CEO of that organization, and she's here today to talk about the organization and some of the challenges that female leaders face. Simply put, she leads from the front as a female executive, but also leads from the front as a champion for future women leaders. Rosina, thank you for joining me today.
I'm thrilled to be here, Tony.
Now that was the condensed version. You're a doctor, you've got all these qualifications. I'm honored to have you because as the audience should know, you and I have worked together, and I've been a participant as a mentor in the Women Unlimited program in Chicago. But there's more about you I'm sure we should hear about, more about you personally. So why don't you share a little bit of information about you?
I'm glad to. And I thought I would share some things that shaped me as a leader. My dad was a coal miner from Pennsylvania, fought in World War II. My mother was a seamstress, and they shaped my understanding of what my potential was, because they would say that I could do whatever I wanted. No qualification, no explanation. It was up to me to chart my own course. I have an undergraduate in criminal justice because I wanted to impact society in a positive way. But when I graduated from college, there were no jobs. So I ended up creating a career in human resources, which then led me to meet the founder of Women Unlimited, which led me to lead this wonderful organization. I also, along the way, got married. I have 2 wonderful daughters and a new grandson. So I know what it's like to have a whole life, right? And we need to look at everything, not just our professional, but our personal life as well.
Well, that's awesome. I too am in the Papa Club. And with 2 grandsons and a 3rd grandchild on the way. So we both know we've now got the best titles ever.
Absolutely.
So that's awesome. So why don't you tell a little bit more about Women Unlimited, and really, it's all about passion, as you and I have talked about before. Why you're passionate about this specific opportunity and organization.
As I mentioned, I spent the first part of my career working and leading HR functions, mostly in manufacturing organizations. And I saw people get stalled out in their career, abdicating control of their development and their advancement to their managers and leaders. And sometimes that worked out well, and sometimes it didn't. And it fascinated me that people weren't owning their career advancement, their career development in a more direct fashion. And I saw for women in particular, they were focused more on the transactional nature of their work, executing it perfectly, and not so much in understanding the business side of things. So I always felt working in HR, I had a bird's eye view in how the organization ran and how people contributed to make the organization successful. And I don't know how I got this mindset, but I always thought about, in my role, in a supporting role, which you are in HR, I always focused on how did I help the company be successful? How did it make money? How did I help impact the customer? And it's very indirect, but in order for people to understand the value that I brought as a leader, I needed to shape my comments and shape my recommendations with a value to the business and a value to the customer. Otherwise, no one would listen to me. And so I noticed that women didn't have that focus. And so I became, more interested in how I can help women understand to state their value, to understand their brand, and how do they execute it in a way that's powerful, not only for them, but for their business as well.
Right, and as you and I have chatted about several times, you put on top of that there's a different lens that women are judged by within the organizations, right? It's just a bias in general, and bias is a really important topic that we're talking about today, right? Currently. And it really is a nice segue into your book that you just published. I'm going to read it because it's got a long title. But Relationships Matter: How Women Use Developmental Networks to Step into Their Power and Influence. I mean, that to me is a powerful subtitle, right? Developmental networks, power and influence.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell, simply put, why should leaders read the book, right? And is it just for women?
Well, it certainly isn't just for women, because I do think that it's critical for us to have relationships that help us understand our business and ourselves. And we know that we don't often get the quality of feedback and guidance from our manager. And if that's the case, then we're really fuddling around doing our work, hoping for the best. And to me, that's not really an effective strategy. So I think as individuals, we need to understand who are the people that are informing how I view the world, view my business. And are they people who think differently than me, who challenge my assumptions? Because at the end of the day, no matter how smart I am limited by my own thoughts and intelligence. I can only have a certain view. And so I need to identify people who challenge and help me think more broadly around issues, think more broadly around the challenges that I have, think more broadly around the business, and think more broadly about myself, right? Because if I didn't know that, if I knew everything, then I wouldn't need anybody else.
It's that tension, right? We all want to be in our comfort zone because that makes us feel better and comfortable, right? By definition. But we know the growth occurs when you're stretched and you're
well, and how do you really hear what people are trying to say? One of the best experiences I had once was at a offsite leadership development program. And I was with all my colleagues. I worked in manufacturing, so I was the only woman in the program. And one of my colleagues said to me how much he really enjoyed working with me. But, he didn't think he would follow me out of a foxhole. And I had heard all feedback around my communication style. I was a little too intimidating. And I thought, well, they just don't know me. Once you know me, you love me, and, things are fine. But I actually stopped and I said to Joe, what are you talking about? He said, well, Rosina, you don't listen. And I thought, wow, you're right. Tell me a little bit more about that. Well, because of that, I was able to understand the stress I was feeling at work, which was, I felt I was pushing everything, pushing that rock uphill. When if I just stopped and asked a couple questions around how people were seeing things that were different than the way I did, it became so much easier for me to get things done, and my ability to contribute at a much higher level just soared. And so it helped me understand these relationships. It's not something I should do. They're essential, especially as you move into more senior roles. And Tony, we've talked about this, you and I. Those relationships help you do your job so much more effectively than if you just try to do it by yourself.
And if you do the big ears, thick skin that I talk a lot about, I believe that is, that thinking of, listening and wanting to hear things, even those things that you really, you don't listen, right? Clearly you could have dismissed that, and maybe 70, 80% of the people would.
Right.
But it became a moment for you, an inflection point, just like in my careers when I was told, I'm intimidated.
Right.
And it was my intensity that was getting in the way of that. And so I think that these are moments in time where in the book, I think identify some of these pivotal moments and how you can break through those. But I really find this topic, we've got that whole notion of here's some things to do, but we also know there's some macro issues at play here, right? Why Women Unlimited? Well, because there's not enough representation at the senior levels of females, right? So that is clear. And I think it's because of it's been quotas, it's been top down, it's been the shiny object of the month. And all those things fizzle out.
Right.
But I think you really hit at something near and dear to my heart. You talk about culture, right? The importance of culture in supporting this. So can you talk a little about that?
Right. I'm happy to. I think, you don't see an organization today whose leader doesn't talk about the importance of creating an atmosphere for women to be successful. This is I think, one of the hardest business strategy to be successful in, because you have to, in order to say that you want to have an organization where women are successful, means you need to change the underpinnings of how things get done in your organization. Because for most companies, the rules of how things get done, how agreements are made, how disagreements occur, right? How we actually work together, those rules were written by men. They weren't written by women. And when women have been coming into organizations, right, we've been in the workforce for 50, 60, in the professional workforce, a very long time. No one gave us that decoder ring that told us, oh, here's the way people think who made the rules. So what happens with a lot of women is they come in the workforce and they just fight the rules. And it's not successful, right? So when organizations are serious about creating an environment, a landscape that has people contribute and can effortlessly move through it, they need to really look into their culture and create an atmosphere that is without bias, but also inviting and allows women to grow effectively from early career to senior leaders. So it's not just the top of the house, which is the one that gets the most press and visibility. It's creating that sustainable pipeline so you don't lose women, have them ooze out of the organization at earlier times.
And that's what's the beauty of the programs at Women Unlimited from my perspective.
Right.
There's the team, I'm going to go on memory, the team program, I think.
Which is now called the Empower program.
Right. The first level supervisor to go to manager. And then the manager to the senior level is called. What's the next level up?
The few.
And then, you've got this, and it's all about at different points in your career, you need different development opportunities.
Right.
And I think that rigor is really important. You touched on sort of the unwritten rules, right? Or the rules written by the men. And I think sometimes we swing the pendulum too far, and men are like, oh, I can't have difficult, everybody likes this either or. Well, geez, we're supporting women. I have to be, sugarcoat things.
Right.
You talk about this in the book, I know. So give some advice to men and how you can both be supportive and be direct in your feedback and your conversations.
I'm happy to. So I think there's a couple of things. I think the greater the difference between you and the person that you're looking to coach and guide, the more you need to suspend your judgment in how you feel about a topic. I remember listening to a podcast where a woman shared that she was in a meeting and she was sharing her thoughts and ideas, and a senior leader, male leader, stepped on her, didn't let her finish. She left the meeting very frustrated, went to her manager, wanting to talk to him about some ways she can get around doing, this situation and being heard. And her manager just dismissed her. Oh, I'm sure you're overreacting to the situation. So he didn't stop to say, wait a minute. She wanted to know, how do I get my voice heard in a meeting so people can hear the value of my contributions? That was her problem. It never happened to him because of who he was, or maybe being a man in the room. That doesn't happen as often. So you really need to, as a male leader, step back and say, what is the true essence, the problem that she's looking to solve? And meet her where she's at. Acknowledge her frustration, the situation, and then help them find some kind of solution. The other piece of that is, though, too, for women, I think it's important that, we're not victims. It's important that women go to their leaders and say, I was in a meeting with Tony last week, and I felt I wasn't that successful in getting my voice heard, my point across. Here's what I did. What are some ideas that you have of ways I can be stronger in how I'm stating my point of view, raising maybe a concern? So we all also need to be clear about what's the feedback we need. What are we looking for? We can't wait for it to come, from on high without asking for it.
Well, and that's a great way to segue into the topic of mentors. I think this, both formal and informal. But again, I'm biased having participated in your programs. But what I really found interesting about the way Women Unlimited structured the program was you had a group of proteges and a couple mentors. You had a man and a woman.
Yeah.
I found that to be very, very effective. Meaning, you didn't come to Tony and ask, how does it feel to be a woman in Tribune and be heard? But conversely, you could come and say what you just gave, that example, to me. Right. And I would both learn from that, but also I think be able to give feedback on maybe that wasn't the right time for that comment. Right. Or that if you framed it a little differently, or you socialized it before the meeting. So talk a little bit about just mentors and your point of view on that as well.
Right. So, our development programs are really designed for high potential women to identify their core competencies and then create a strategy for their success. And their success is what they want to accomplish in their career, but also contributing to their business. One of the core parts of our program, our development design, is creating what we call a peer team. It's women, each from a different company, each with a different functional background, who work together in creating strategies for their success. They're sounding boards for one another, and they also meet with their external executive mentors, you being one of them. And ideally, we have one male and one female mentor. And we do that intentionally because we want the women to have two very different viewpoints, hear how male leaders may see things that might be different than the female leaders, and learn how to create these developmental relationships that post our programs, they can go back inside their organizations and develop these relationships with other leaders, because we know that they're so important. What's fascinating is that the women learn, well, Tony may have, one point of view, and Kelly may have a different point of view. Not that one's right and one's wrong, but it helps me think about the situation differently, right? And we know that it's not that the mentors have all the answers, because what I hear from women is, my mentor asked me a really great question. No, and you're really great at this, Tony. Ask really good questions to help them think more deeply about what the situation is, or what some alternative options they have to solve or move forward in their career. So it's all about understanding that, these relationships guide our thinking and leads us to a result. What I love about what our mentoring model, especially for the men that are involved as leaders, is that the men will share with me that they have gained so much understanding around the challenges that women are facing that they're able to bring that understanding back to their organization because it opens their eyes. You know, I think I have not met many men who aren't empathetic and don't want women to be successful. What they don't understand is the challenges that we face as women in business because they don't have the same experience. And so when you can put men in situations that are safe, where they can hear these challenges and understand the impact of them, they go back to their organization as stronger leaders because they can be more empathetic, yes, but also more effective in leading the female talents on their team.
Well, that to me was the eye-opener, the old walk in another person's shoes. Right. And I think that's at the core of your messaging here is that both sides really need to understand that. And if you understand the rules, and I really like the way you frame rules inside the organization, how things really get done, you know, right. The real playbook, the cultural things, the support from senior management helps. But the other thing that I think you focus a lot of energy on is it's not always bright skies, right, and success. Right. And so you talk, I think in the program, there's several of your modules that really deal with this notion of resiliency, reimagining yourself, and being able to, as I call it, adapt, evolve, reinvent. It's really part of the, but dealing with setbacks. And today, as we all, you know, we talked about this before the interview started. Yeah. We're in a disruptive time. That's an understatement of the day, right? And so talk a little bit about how you see the disruption today and how it intersects with all of our development, not just females.
Right. Well, you know, it was interesting when the COVID crisis hit in March, I was meeting with my team about our response to it. And I had just read a study by Korn Ferry around the key competencies for senior leadership, two of them being a tolerance for ambiguity and adaptability. And so that informed my thinking around we need to make sure that we reformat how we deliver our development programs to make sure that women stay engaged. Because what I often see is in a time of crisis or change, women will take a sidestep. They'll wait. You know, I'm going to wait for this crisis to blow by. We'll get back in June and then we'll reinvigorate the program. Conversely, at Women Unlimited, we said, no, let's use this to strengthen your muscle because this is what makes good leaders. No one knows, really. Who would have thought in March that we'd be sitting here in August still not knowing when this crisis was going to end? We don't know. But what we do know is how we can react. We are not victims. We know we still need to be effective. We have to run our business. We need to accomplish certain goals. We just may need to do it differently. And so let's have a curious mind. What if we can do things differently? How would we go about doing it? And we start getting innovative. We start doing things in a different way. And what I'm hearing from the women in our programs, they are achieving so many great things in their organization because they're taking time to take a step back, thinking more broadly, and creating powerful impacts for not only themselves, but for their business as well.
That nugget at the end there, I want to just amplify on. Stepping back and thinking, right? When you're in the operating roles, there's not a lot of time for thinking.
Right.
And I think that is a great nugget that you just said. It's like stepping back and reimagining, thinking, and positioning yourself where the puck's going, as they say in hockey, not where it is. And I think that is, you know, one way to wrap sort of the capstone question I have for you is you've had many women go through the program. At Chicago Tribune, we had such success with the program. and people, were promoted, elevated, took on great senior roles. But if you could put sort of a capstone around this, what are some real keys for breakthrough moments as you've watched and you've got this empirical evidence of so many leaders going through your program? What are 3 to 5 things that just pop out to you that are like, if you really want to succeed and have the breakthrough in development, these are some things you should be focused on?
Yeah. I think the first thing you need to be focused on is, how do you, in your role, help your company make money? You need to have a clear picture of that. You need to understand, what the P&L is, what the contribution is, what are the things that are measured so that you know how you can create impact. And for women, oftentimes they're not pursuing those P&L roles, right? Because they think that for a lot of reasons. And women need to pursue these P&L roles early so that they understand their business. The second thing that I would say is, don't shy away from risk, especially now, right? You need to be able to, one of the women that works with us talks about taking that smart, manageable risk, because those are the things that will move you and your business forward. And don't be afraid of failure. I mean, I have learned more from the things that didn't go well than the things that, were smooth sailing. And I think part of that, when I was younger, I took professional dance classes. I think I thought at one time that was the life that I was going to have. But for 2 hours in class, I heard everything I did wrong. And that's how I learned how to improve. I'm not afraid of things not going well because I know that that's not the end. It's just the moment that I learn what didn't work. And then I can figure out what will work. So don't be afraid. Lean into the failure so that you can figure out, how do I make from this mess that maybe wasn't ideal something that creates the impact?
Well, those are terrific ideas. I've heard many say, wisdom only comes from experience. I have a little more blunt approach. I've got a master's degree from the School of Hard Knocks. You've heard that from me before. And that's really your point. If you're willing to lean into risk, you're going to fail. The key is to learn, and then the next time a similar situation comes about, you capitalize on that. And this notion of capitalizing on disruption, I think, is also at the core of your messaging. This is when you can make a big difference.
Right.
And it's usually around the notion of being willing to lean in and take those calculated risks when everybody else is sitting back and not willing to. So, well, how could people and companies learn more about Women Unlimited and learn more about how their companies could participate, Rosina?
Well, we would love to, they can visit our website, which is women-unlimited.com. Would love to talk with them if there are organizations that feel they want to see more women in their talent pipeline and want to help leaders, their male and female leaders, understand how they can more actively support women advancing. Would love to talk with them.
Well, Rosina, thank you for being a guest today.
My pleasure.
You lead from the front in so many ways, but thanks for all your great work in developing the future female leaders and executives of the future, because that's so critical right now. Thank you for your time today.
Oh, it was my pleasure. It's always great talking to you, Tony. Thank you.
Thank you.